I'm going to cover weight distribution and one of our kind of pet peeves that questions come in via the mailbag. And that question is, do you need your weight on the right or left hip, depending on where the opponent is grabbing you or pushing you, something like that. The truth of the matter is, in a real fight situation, yes, go ahead and put your weight into the technique, but when you are trying to just learn the technique, you want to try to take the weight, the hips, the shoulders, all of that out of it initially, and focus on the wrist. Because if you can get the wrist technique, then you will be a much better practitioner. If you constantly practice with your partner where you're putting your weight into it, then we kind of like to call that cheating. So if Tony's, we'll just do push catch as an example, I can go up and practice and try to get some realism in this and crank on it, and that's what you see most of the time when people are doing internet instructional videos. They're just cranking it as hard as they can. Well, that's all fine and dandy in a real situation, but you're never going to learn the angles. You're never going to get better at the wrist unless you slow down and just try it from here. So what I'm going to do for this drill is I'm going to go ahead and get my body just at the force efficiency angle for the wrist, and I'm going to come up and get into my primary position and my support position. So right here, I've already got the angle. I don't have to throw my body into it. I've got a neutral stance. Right, left are equal. So I can sit here and get a reaction. Now, if I'm straight on, I can still get a reaction, but it's a little bit harder to get a reaction because I'm trying to turn my shoulders, and actually I'm trying to stop myself from turning my shoulders, but I can't go that direction. So if you go ahead and start at that 45, get everything lined up, primaries here, supports here, you can see I don't have to drop down, I don't have to do all that. One of my biggest pet peeves is people always say, put your weight into it. That is fine, real life time frame, but Tony is going to resist and I'm going to push down with my 140 pounds. I actually took my feet off the ground, so I got all 140 pounds into it. He didn't budge. Alright, also, like cross hand grip, this was an example somebody asked me about a couple of weeks ago at one of the seminars. Do I need to put my weight on the right hip in order to get this to come up, or do I need to put my weight on the left hip in order for it to get up? Again, in technique, real life, sure, put your weight into it. But if Tony grabs really tight, I keep my 50-50 stance. I try not to put my shoulders into it. If I actually do my fingers the way I'm supposed to get the technique to work, it doesn't matter. I can do the technique. If I put my hips into it, put right hip for attacking his right arm, I might actually make it a little harder to do. I put my left into it. So you want to get the technique on the wrist before you worry about adding any of the other things. Okay, so once again, if he's tight, I'm going to do my fingers the way I'm supposed to. I've got the technique. I can now turn into the technique. So don't focus on hips, putting your weight into it until you've really worked on getting that angle and getting the wrist locked.